I'd like to start by welcoming everybody to our monthly topic consulting webinar. Today's session will focus on the topic of dashboards, and we will have Dagmar, who's on the consulting team. She'll be joining us, and she'll run through several examples of different types of dashboards that can be created, how you can customize them for different employees within your company, different tools and widgets that you can place on there, and search capabilities, and a lot of really cool things. So I'm very excited for today's session. Thank you for joining us today. And as a bit of a housekeeping note, I will go ahead and place everybody on mute just to go ahead and drown out any background noise and so we can hear clearly. There will be time at the end of the session for Q&A. If you can go ahead and throughout the session add your questions to the chat box that's on the GoToMeeting panel on your screen. Dagmar at the end will go through and field those questions and answer them and show any additional examples if necessary. So please ask your questions. We definitely want an open discussion at the end. And also, as always with the previous sessions that we've had with these, we are recording them, and they are available on the basic training page of the customer website and also on the other resources training page on the customer website. So if you'd like to share with someone who wasn't able to attend today or want to go back and watch an example again, you'll definitely have that ability. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick it off and pass it on to Dagmar, and we'll go ahead and get started on today's session. Dagmar, are you with us?
I am. Thank you, Kristen. Thanks everybody for joining today on this session for dashboards. So let me talk about what dashboards are to begin with. Here's an example of a dashboard. It's basically a screen that lets you set up instruments, which are these individual little panels here, which can pull information or also be used for moving around control faster. So really maximize your speed inside control. This particular example here is one of the home dashboards that was defaulted for a lot of you when you purchase control. And it basically becomes a home screen, and this one is mostly used for navigational purposes. There are a whole bunch of preloaded dashboards in the system, and you can also create a new one from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to an example of one of the preloaded dashboards, the counting receivables, and this isn't a navigational dashboard like the previous one we were looking at. This really is pulling data from control. So as I mentioned, you can set different screens to be your home dashboard. This home screen was set up globally in the system setup, and then if you scroll down to miscellaneous and to the dashboard options, this is where you can edit at the upper right, change to a different dashboard that is shared. It needs to be shared for it to show up. If you create one and it's not shared, other people will not see it. And then you can basically select a different one, save it, and then the next time you log into Control, it will be your new home screen dashboard when you first log in. And this is globally. Now, each individual user can also choose which dashboard they would like to make their home dashboard, and that's under Setup, User Options. And then if I go down to Dashboard Options, here's the same option that you can set a different one to be your new default. All right, so that's how you can choose which dashboards you guys see globally across your whole company, or each individual user can select their own. I'm going to go ahead and close this dashboard, and let's start with a new dashboard. There are some controllers that you have on each of these dashboards to add instruments, but to start with a fresh dashboard, you do want to go to the dashboard menu, and I'm going to go down to New, and now I'm going to start with a blank screen. If I right-click, I have options to add a column, remove a column, add instruments, and get this whole big tree with a lot of different options. That is the same as clicking on an add column or remove column or this tree for all of your instruments. I'm not going to worry about the layout yet. I'm really just interested right now in adding some instruments to this particular dashboard. So I'm going to start with a really common type of tool. You're probably all familiar with Explorers and being able to go through orders and estimates and different options in the Explorer instruments. Explorer itself. We also have Explorer instruments available. So I'm going to go to Add. I'm going to go down to my Explorer options, and I'm going to select an Order Explorer. And I did add a column in earlier, which is why I clicked on the button without having an instrument here, which added in another column. But if I want to remove it, I can just click on Remove, and this is typically what would happen when you first add an instrument. I can resize. As you can see, I can just increase this. And at the moment, I have 38 orders that are pulling from my Order Explorer. Now, I can make changes to my display, first of all, by right-clicking and going to the column chooser. And you have the same options as you do in the Explorers to pick different columns that you want to see. So let's say I want the second salesperson. I can drag and drop. If I don't want it, I can pull it off, and it turns into a black X and drops off. As you rearrange, you can just drag and drop things around, and it'll show you the little green arrows so you know where it lands. You can widen things. These are all the same settings that you have in the Explorers themselves. Now, right now, this dashboard is not saved yet. So if I were not to save it, and you log out for the day, it's going to be gone. So you do want to remember to save a dashboard. Now, it's a brand new one, so I need to give it a name. And let's just call this DC Test. And now I have a new dashboard. Now, again, you can make all the rearrangements here on this Explorer. There are some other options here. You can minimize it. If you have a whole bunch of instruments and you need some room and you don't need to look at them all the time, might as well minimize it. I can also use this little arrow box to edit. I can clone this into another Order Explorer. I can minimize it. If I close it, it's actually going to take this instrument off of my dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and edit. And this is now opening up an Order Explorer very similar to what you're familiar with in the Order Explorer view. And that allows me a chance to select other filters and fields. So if we're thinking of production, which is a common use for dashboards, I might just want to look at WIP orders. In that case, I could say I only need to look at WIP, uncheck the other filters, can change the time frame. Maybe I need to look at all WIP orders, especially when you're switching end of the year. Come January, if you're looking at last year, you may not be seeing all of the information, or if you're looking at this year, you may not be seeing the December orders. So that could be one of the things to look at in the new year if you're not getting the results that you were expecting. Now that I change this to be a WIP Order Explorer, I do want to change the caption so that I know these are WIP orders. Now, as far as refreshing is concerned, this really isn't that important. You actually do want to usually have a relatively large number. If you have a lot of instruments and you have a whole bunch of people having dashboards pulling, information across your network, if you're constantly refreshing, that can be a drain. So it's okay to leave it as a big number. Each instrument gives you the chance to refresh at any time that you like, and it also gives you the chance to increase the number of values of items that you want to return. So this number can be relatively low. So now I have a WIP Order Explorer. So it's just showing me the orders themselves. Maybe I also want to see line items. In that case, I can add another instrument for an Explorer for Line Item Explorer. And again, I can rearrange things, show how much I'd like to show. But what's neat about this is you can link these two together. If you're familiar in the Explorers, you have an option for a sub-explorer at the bottom. We can do the same thing here. I'm going to edit through the little triangle box, and then I'm going to say I want to make the Line Item Explorer a sub-explorer of the order and estimate, and in this case I'm going to say order because I didn't put an instrument for line items on this particular dashboard. So I'm going to say just Line Item Ticket Explorer is fine. If you do have other Order Explorers on it, this will also link to that. So now if I click on a particular job at the top, it's going to show me all the line items for that job down below. Okay, so now we have a basic kind of very basic dashboard. These linkages can also work with other explorers. You could have a company explorer at the top maybe with a contact explorer below it. So you have a number of things that you can do. Now if I wanted to rearrange and start getting some more space in here for other items, I can add a column maybe. I can widen certain sections of it, and I can keep on dropping in other options. So for instance, maybe I need to look at a calendar. I can drop that in. There is a, excuse me, you're probably familiar with some of the quick products list. Maybe I need to do estimates and need to pull up my quick products list. And possibly I might want to use, excuse me, going back to home, the quick lookup tool. Now this has a whole bunch of different options, and some of them are just really used by your administrators, so you can go into the little triangle box and hit edit, and you can choose which one of the tools you're actually going to need to use. So in this case, maybe you're looking at orders here specifically. Maybe you need to look up a company, but if you don't have accounting, bills aren't going to be important. If you're not doing purchase orders, those might not be important. Excuse me. So you can update this just to be reflective of what you need and then rearrange things. So remember to save. Okay, so now that we have saved this dashboard, a couple of things. When you save it, it's going to not be shared with other users. So if you do want them to be able to access it, you would want to share it, and remember to save. Once it's shared, it's going to be available on the pull-down list for them to see. And here's my DC test dashboard. And then they would be able to select it as their home screen if they would like. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are sharing it across your network and you don't want the filters to be adjusted, you may want to lock it from editing. And if you see you can't add any other instruments, you can't change the filters, so that would be another thing to consider. If you do need to share it across your network, to other users, and they may want to make changes to it, you're using it as a template to roll out across your business and be able to have each one have their own dashboard. You could save this as for each person, and then they can pull it from the dashboards list or even use it as their home screen, and then they can make all the edits that they want if they want to rearrange the way they want to look at it. Also, as I mentioned earlier, closing some of these items down, especially when you're first loading up, is a good idea in the morning, and you might not be automatically needing to pull up all this information, and then you can just expand it as you need it. Will be a good speed option for across your network, so that will be of some help. If you have dual monitors, you can actually float a dashboard and drag it over to another monitor, and then when you're done with that, you can anchor it, and then it locks back into place. All right, so now we've talked about general options for dashboards and how to create a new one. Let's talk about how you can adjust some of the preloaded dashboards that already came with the system. I'm going to go ahead and open one of the print operator options here. We've got some preloaded dashboards here. So occasionally when you purchase control and you're opening one of these dashboards, you may or may not have data pulling here because you need to have orders set to actually be based on one of these stations that are set here. Stations are in the production setup, under production setup. There are ways to detail out where something is in production or in pending status for estimates. So in this particular case, these were preloaded to be printed on and printing now as well as in finishing. If I didn't get any results here, that could be because I've removed some of those particular stations. I may have renamed them or made them inactive. So you can use the existing dashboards and customize them. Again, going to the little box with the triangle, edit, and now I could change it to a different station. Or a particular person, any type of, any number of different things. So for instance, if I suddenly wanted to, use this for a designer, maybe I just select the design station. If I want to actually show all of the printing stations, I could do this. If there are a whole bunch of them, you can also use the asterisk as a wild card, and then all of them will show with that wild card. And I want to save it. And now this one's changed from to be printed to showing all of the in-printing options, including the one it originally was. You do want to remember, as you make these changes, to also change the caption so that you know what you're actually looking at once you've made that particular adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Remember to save your dashboard to save those changes. All right, let's take a look at another preloaded dashboard and a couple other neat things that you can do. I'm going to open up the Accounting Receivables dashboard, and this has information for your AR staff and really showing your outstanding invoices. And of course, you can again rearrange things to be able to see things a little better, maybe widen this so you can also see your over 90-day. You can also record payments here, so as you click on a particular order, it's going to update which order it is, and then you can record a payment. Now here I'm seeing all of the current ARs, and I'm seeing all of the current invoices, and this could be quite an extensive list. If I want to do the same thing we did on the first dashboard where these two are linked, I can open up this instrument, which is actually another Order Explorer, and I can make it a sub-explorer of the company. And if I go ahead and save that and select one of the companies over here, you're seeing now I'm only seeing the one invoice for this company and the 3 for that one, and a number of them for the third company. So that again gives you the chance to use two different instruments together. Now there's another instrument that's very handy. Many owners or managers would look at this. If I go to Accounting General, there's a financial throughput summary, and this is basically going to show you as things change, as orders are placed or they change the status to built or to sales status. It's going to show you the changes on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis. You also can see different adjustments that occur. Now, if I don't want to necessarily see those, I can go to Edit. I can uncheck the Show Adjustment. And now I'm just seeing these. These links here actually open up explorers that have queries pulling that particular data into the instrument. So you can look at it here if you want to look at an individual order with more detail. Now, another neat thing about this is you can also use calendar date range. And if you're selecting a range up here, and I actually should probably go back to an older range. There you go. I've selected it through the calendar. It is now updating that data for you at the bottom. There's another instrument that will do the same thing, and let me see, and that is the date and time range. And you can do the same thing there, selecting a particular, whoops, probably move it over here where it's a little wider. This is where you kind of play around with your layout a bit, and I could say I want to look at it from a specific time frame and maybe change that up, and then that's going to update the information right here. So that's how different instruments can work together. All right, so maybe right now I have an instrument that shows me the company information and the order. Maybe I also want to have a really easy way to just look at what the payment terms are for a particular company. There's a way to pull queries from your Explorer to an Explorer instrument. Now, I'm not going to get into the advanced queries themselves. I'll just show you really quick one that I previously created. In the Explorers, you have an option for Show Advanced Criteria Selection, and these are queries that you can write, and you can basically modify these, clear information out, and then say, I want all orders where the salesperson is a certain person. You can type the name in. You know, there's a whole bunch of information here. You write a query, and then it will return results. Now, there's some preloaded ones, and there may or may not be information in here that qualifies for that particular preloaded query, so you may or may not get any results. So I am going to pull up one that I previously created. So the instrument we're looking for is an advanced query, and it's part of the Explorer. So I'm going to go to Marketing and Advanced Explorers, and I'm going to select a marketing search result. And let's maybe move that over here. I'm going to minimize this one, expand this a little bit, and if I go again to Edit, I can use Custom Search. I'm looking for a company. In this particular case, that was what I pulled payment terms from the company level. And then if I go to Use Save Search, I can preload or I can load the query that I previously saved. And this one is company payment terms on outstanding orders, so I can update the caption so that I know what this is relating to. So what I did is wrote a query, which you can see on the bottom, that just basically is asking for any orders that have a balance that's outstanding and that they're in sales status. I didn't want to actually pull them for those that were in WIP or built because they haven't actually walked out the door. So it was really just based on those that were in sales status or your AR specifically. So now I can actually take a look and pull up the payment terms. Now, if it's not showing, that just may be because I don't have that field showing here. So then I can go down my list and go, okay, where's my payment terms? And there they are. And then I have that information handy and go, oh, now why does my test company have a whole bunch of items in ARs when they are actually a cash customer? That meant, you know, they walked out the door without us getting a payment. So big boo-boo. So that's really the idea of how you can, you know, customize these existing dashboards just as well. And remember to save. And let's talk about some other dashboard instruments that are pretty handy. I'm just going to go ahead and jump back over maybe to my previous one and just show you some really handy tools. One of my favorite ones is the shortcuts. And it jumped down here at the bottom. I don't really need it to be very wide. This tool gives you options to do shortcuts for websites. So you can basically type in a website. The shortcuts, the caption at the top is for the whole instrument, but then each individual one has its own caption. And if you don't know what it is, you can also put a little hint in there, and you can choose which icon you might want to use for that particular item. Whether it's an action or a file or, you know, anything else that you might want, you can just select one of those. And then if I want to maybe add a file, that would be maybe a PDF or an Excel document. Those can work as well, and you basically would just need to put in the address of that file. Now, I basically have a file on my desktop, and I looked at the properties and was able to copy over the name and just added the the extension and all of that to it. So we'll see what that does momentarily, and maybe I want to add an action. So you're familiar from the first screen that we had a new estimate, new company, Explorer tool. You can do a shortcut directly to those. So if I often do new estimates, I don't have to go up here to click new. I don't need to go to the home screen to click on new. I can actually do an action here that takes me directly to that. I might also want that for an Explorer, so if I'm constantly going to explore orders, I can just click on explore orders and I'll have a button for that. Okay, so we did a URL, we did a file, we did an action. You can also access the report menu, and if you find yourself often going through the menus to find a particular report and to save yourself some time, go ahead and pull it off of this menu, and you're going to save so much time. So if you find yourself looking at a particular WIP report or sales report, you know, a whole bunch of times each day, you might as well put a shortcut on your dashboard. So now I have, and I'm not sure what I did here on my PDF. We'll take a look at why that PDF shortcut is not working right there. Must have copied something else in there. Let's take a look. There's had a line break or something in there. So I didn't change the caption, so it's just showing me the whole address, but I could have just said, what's the name of this document, and it just pops open my document. I can just go to the website. I can start a new estimate. I can, go back to my DC test, and I can pop open a report, and that just saved me a whole bunch of time. So I actually would have set up a number of shortcuts and maybe have one for new, all of the new estimate, new company, new contacts that you use, and then have maybe another one for your explorers, and that actually takes up less room than this does. So nice space saver on your dashboard. Couple of the other ones we talked about, the quick, I guess I already addressed the quick products here and the quick lookup. Those are very common ones. And I just encourage you to really just go through here and do a new estimate, a new dashboard, and just keep on selecting items from it to see what these different instruments do. There's a dashboard I set up with just in moments, really, probably a couple of minutes. I went to all of the instruments, and again, you can right-click to add instrument, and I went to all of the ones related to the activity manager, and that's everything you're seeing here, and then I just added another column, rearranged a few things, and all of a sudden I have a new dashboard. And that way you get familiar with, well, what do all of these things do, and which one do you like better? Because you can often do the same things a number of ways, but this way you find which one is just most practical for you. And again, it might be different from the next person. All right, let's see. So a couple more tips just in general. The space saver, close these down if you don't need to look at them all the time, less distracting. Also, if you have a lot of information pulling in an Explorer, if you close that and save your dashboard and log out, the next time you log in, it's not going to pull that information automatically. Helps on your original login, but then as soon as you need it and you open up, it'll just load that information at that point. Now, if you have more information showing, you can, or if you only have 22 showing, but it says 22 out of 40, you can type over and say 40, and then it will return the additional results. If it's set to refresh hourly and you want to refresh it, you're not sure the last time it refreshed, you're like, oh, that was half an hour ago, and I want to see if that new order showed up, you can then just click refresh and everything new will load. So there's really no need to have it refresh constantly because you do have those options available. Line Item Explorer is pretty neat too because it lets you change the station here, so you can even do it for a number of line items at the same time. And you can also do the same thing for assigning it to a particular person if you're using that for your company. So really think about as you find yourself doing things repeatedly throughout a day, or reports you're constantly looking at, think about how you can get that data onto the dashboard through a shortcut or maybe a marketing search result. May need a little help with a query, but the basic queries you'll find some training on videos on the basic training page. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of the questions you guys have submitted, or you can submit here on the chat at this point, and let's see what I can answer. Any questions, anybody? Let's see. So
Dagmar, it looks like.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Sorry, I just noticed it. Hey, Christina, thanks for your question. So if an employee already has a dashboard different from the default, and then we change the system default, will that override theirs, or will they still have the one they chose within their settings? Good question. I don't actually know about whether it would override if you're changing it again. It may, and if that's the case, then they would just need to go to the user options and reselect which dashboard they would prefer to be their home screen. Hey, David, you have a question? Okay, so David McNabb asks, I have an invoice that the customer would like all parts and service time a price listed. Okay, you have an invoice. Okay, and let's see here. So you're basically wanting to have all the parts itemized is what you're asking, David?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I unmute myself. This is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
So, hi, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Okay, so I have an invoice, and I don't know if I can give you control of my computer.
Yeah, so it's not actually a question today on related to the dashboards then, Jennifer?
It's not. Is that just what this is specific to?
Yeah, because we're not actually switching over today to looking at your system for different questions, but you're needing to have everything itemized, the part showing?
Yes.
Okay, there is an option to print parts, except then it's going to show all the costs associated with it too. And
okay.
So you're really looking at having it itemized and have pricing showing for the parts.
Yeah, you know how you can list the parts on there. The client wanted to see how much they're charged for, like a ballast or a lamp.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, as far as itemizing is concerned, probably depends on which product you're talking about and how it's set up. May need to require some report customization to be able to do what you're wanting to do. So I would reach out to consulting. You know, if you can mock up what you're trying to accomplish, print out the invoice. Then we can take a look at what's involved with that, how much time, and give you a quote on that.
Okay. All righty.
Okay.
Very good.
And so this today, the third Wednesday webinar is pretty much a particular topic. Tomorrow we're showing some of the new features in version 5.7, and then Friday Kyle will be back doing the regular consulting webinar. Okay.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's all right. Thanks for your question, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dagmar.
Good to hear your voice. Any Any other questions? You guys can send it in over your chat.
All right, this is Kristen again. I'm not seeing any other questions. Dagmar, have you received any?
No, I don't see any others that came over.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today and joining us. Dagmar, thank you for sharing a lot of really helpful hints and ideas for the dashboards and different ones that we can create. Again, thank you all for joining us. Next month, our topic is on shipping. Specifically, we'll be reviewing the shipping tab and how you can pull in different information and some order line items. And like Dagmar mentioned, it is the third Wednesday of every month. We kind of take over the regularly scheduled consulting webinar and focus on a topic and try to go a little bit deeper on one area of the system. So thank you for joining us. This session was recorded, like I mentioned, and it will be posted up within the next week on the customer website. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, I will go ahead and end the session. Actually, it looks like Denise may have just sent one in.
James, I actually had a question. I didn't realize I was on mute.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
I was actually wondering, like, okay, say one of our designers has it in the station where it says it's in design, but they want to go ahead and we would like to add like the station where it says like it's in design but it's in waiting on approval bin and things of that nature that don't show up when you're on a specific station.
Okay. Now, you know that for stations you can do two different things. They could be either on the order level or on the line item level. So the things that are affected by that is what you've set that particular station for and where it shows up. And I think that's what you're asking about. So for instance, here's the basic in design. So that covers all of the substations. These are all right now in WIP status. Okay, and they are set to be used for orders, but they are also set to use for line items. So if, for instance, you're doing all your stations based on line items, then it's going to be important for it to show here. If you're using it just on the order level, then it's important that you're using it up here. You know, and oftentimes these are both in conjunction with one another, but this is usually where people mention, hey, it's not showing for line items. Why is that? I have it set for WIP. That's because it's not set for line items. Is that your question?
I kind of think so, but not 100%. When I go, like, okay, say I'm on my main screen where it shows all my orders.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And from there, say one of the designers want to go ahead and change the status of the order from the station. I mean, say it's in the same station, say it's in design, but they want to change it from just being in design to waiting on approval or waiting on artwork or whatnot.
Okay.
How would they be able to
okay.
in design?
Okay, so any of these can actually be changed by right-clicking like you can inside the Explorer. So you can push it through to the next station so that it drops off of your dashboard and onto the next person's.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just do that by, yeah?
I understand that. My question is, like, say it's in the station of in design, is there a way we can go ahead and put the arrow where they can change it, like, because like it says it's in printing and they can change it from whatever different status is in printing, but in design, can they change the status from the waiting on approval to waiting in the bin or to currently?
Sure, they can. Yeah, they can change it to any of the stations that are there. Like the design here only had one, but my in printing had 3 of them. So I can,
Is there a way to add more to the InDesign one then?
Oh, sure. Just in this particular system, there aren't any others layered underneath it. Like these seem to be all inactive. So if I make them active, then they will all be there. Just a matter of, you know, are they active and where did you put them? Are you using them on orders or line items or both? And then as you make those changes, oops, that one was already in design. Let's do another one here. Okay, I'd have to probably refresh. Let me see if I close out of this dashboard and come back into it. Let's see here. Don't know that it requires me to, yep, it may need me to log out of control and back in order to get those current.
Okay.
So let's see, because I did make them active, so you can make them active or inactive by right-clicking, but to actually change the check boxes, you do need to be in edit mode to say, oh, I also need it in another status, for instance.
Okay, then if I were to do that, that would show up then on, like, say, all the other designers' computers?
Well, if you have a basic Explorer like this DC test, this one is just generic, right? It shows everything. If you go to one of the other dashboard, let's see which other one. I think I used the design operator here. Like for instance, this one, it just depends on what it's set to. So this one's not showing any design because it's set to be printed on. But if I change the selection of the station, the filter to I want to see in design, and then this would change to those new settings.
Oh, okay.
And if I want to just see one of these, I select one of those. If I want to see all of the in design, that's when I use that wildcard of the asterisk. And then it would actually not just show in design, and of course I forgot to update my caption again, but now it's showing anything that's in design, including the sub ones. We just didn't set any of the substations, you know, the to be scheduled and so on. We didn't select any orders to have that station yet.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did that answer your question, Denise?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent. Let's see here. Let me. Now, you had a question about floating your dashboard too?
That was me.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Getting the names mixed up here. So when you float your dashboard, I need to change the size. Is there a way to save the size of the dashboard? So basically, when it just kind of shrinks down, and then you need to move it over. So, you know, I'm not sure that there is a way. I'll have to find out if there's an option. We'll take a look at the dashboard options. Let's take a look real quick. Let's see, system setup. I don't think there was anything really under the dashboards but assigning it, and I don't think there is one here either. So it seems to me that no, that you probably can't, but then you can, you basically can, you know, resize it, and you can go up to full size. So that part's easy to match your monitor screen.
Okay.
So
I have two monitors, so I use two dashboards. Mm-hmm. One I float to my second monitor, and one I keep on my Sirius main screen.
Sure.
So I used my other monitor for 4 different things, so I wanted to fit in that little square that I have.
It. Well, it looks like you've got really the option to maximize it or to just, you know, resize it to that particular size. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's an option. Might be a suggestion you might want to put in for development, and if it's something that can be done and we have enough people, you know, requesting it, it might be doable. I don't know that it is, but if it's doable and they get some suggestions, they will likely consider it.
Okay.
All right. Let me and then.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, if you, in this particular case, since my instrument is smaller, you might have to sometimes scroll over to the far right to get back to the controls. Oh, that brings up one more thing I didn't mention. If you ever find that you've played around with your dashboard so much and it's actually gotten wider than your screen, and you can basically rearrange the width of individual columns here, it's tough to do it all the way on the far right. So if you've gone way beyond and rearrange things and you just can't get over to the far right and resize it, and you have to have a scroll bar at the bottom, I tend to just add and remove columns, and when you remove columns, it just resizes everything, and then you can say, okay, now I want to rearrange my dashboard, and then you basically can, once you get to the little 2 arrows, you can widen things. You can say, okay, drag and drop on the blue bar. You can then rearrange things. That's what I found easiest. It's on each of the columns on the left side, it's easy to grab the edge on the far right, but the column, the furthest right, you don't have that option. So removing columns and rearranging is usually the trick there. And let's see, any other messages? Don't see any other chat. Anybody else have another question I can answer? All right, everybody. Well, it looks like those were the questions. So as Kristen mentioned, we'll get the recording up shortly, and we'll have a training tomorrow on, or a presentation on the features in 5.7. And Friday, the regular scheduled consulting services webinar will be back in session.